For he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribe.
He taught them as one having authority and not a scribe. Thank you very much. From out of that passage, the 7th chapter of Matthew, we just want to, all of that entire passage is important, and I just want to remind you of this verse. Whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. I want to talk from this thought this morning. Watch where you build. Watch where you build. I liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. Watch or be careful where you build. Without a doubt, the point of this parable lies in the difference between the two foundations that Jesus mentions in the parable. One of the reasons why they're astonished at his doctrine, or the main reason, is in the 29th verse. He taught them as one having authority, not as the scribes, one who just simply write the law and write the word. But he taught them as one who is, and rightly so, the author of the words. And by being the author of the words means that they've come from him. And he didn't teach them as if he was holding a manuscript where somebody else had written it, or a book out of which someone else had authored, or a book which someone else has authored. But he taught them as the one who has authored it or spoken the words himself. And here he is in this parable speaking like this. Whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them. Here's how I will compare him, Jesus says. I will liken him. But I will compare that person as to a wise man who builds his house upon a rock. And so again, this parable points out right away the difference between two foundations. One is sure and steadfast. The other is shifting and unstable. One is a rock. The other is sand. Now all the other features in the two cases here are identical, except for the difference in where they build. Everything else is identical. And we'll miss Jesus' message if we see the house on the rock better built. The Bible doesn't say that. It doesn't say that it's a better built house, that it has better material in it, that it is better put together. It doesn't say that at all. Both houses seem to be equally well built. Jesus would not tell a parable talking about a foundation where one house was built better than the other. If it was built better than the other, then where you build it really doesn't make a great deal of difference then, because if one is not built as well as the other, it doesn't have a chance from the beginning. But in Jesus' parables, whenever he's comparing people or things, he gives them the equal chance. You notice in the parable of the 10 virgins, even though right at the onset, or at the outset, you talk about 5 wise and 5 foolish, just like this passage. One man is going to be wise and the other one foolish. But that has nothing to do with how they start out, because they all get the same chance to be wise. The 5 foolish ones choose to be foolish. And that's what we have to understand, that wisdom and foolishness has not a great deal to do with IQ or mental capacity, but it has to do with the choices that we make. That means intelligent people can make foolish choices, and people who are less in intelligence can make wise choices. And so the 5 foolish and 5 wise both get the same opportunity to set out to meet the bridegroom. And then in the two men who go in the temple to pray, the Pharisees, they both walk in at the same time. And the reason why Jesus placed them side by side, to show you that one does not have an advantage over the other. You can't say that one is in the pulpit and the other one's in the pew, or one is kneeling down at the kneeling stool and the other one is somewhere in the balcony. That's why God accepted this one. Not at all. He places them side by side, gives them both the same opportunity to pray. It's just that one prays the acceptable prayer and the other one does not. So this whole thing is choosing. And sometimes, and that's why it's important in Jesus' teaching, and all of us understand that some of the reasons why we are having trouble, some of us, is because we have chosen a troubled path. We can't blame everything to fate and I'm suffering as Job. Job's case is a different case, or something else. Sometimes we have chosen the troubled path. We have chosen the miserable highway that we're on. We have chosen the situation that we're in. And therefore, we probably made a foolish choice. And making that foolish choice has nothing to do with the fact that you didn't have a chance to make a wise choice. It would not be fair for the house that's built on the rock to be better built than the one on the sand. It doesn't say that at all. Because both houses are equally well built. It is not what is built or even who builds it here, but where the house is built. That's where wisdom and foolishness comes out. Where the house is built. The location of the house. That's where it's all about. In our fight here in this community against that juvenile detention, we didn't really come out against detentions. So all the people who say, gee, I don't understand, Reverend Adam, we got to deter crime some kind of way. Are they saying don't have any jails? We never came out with that. You and I know that there are people who are evil and wicked and will continue to do evil and wickedness if they're not in some way penalized. We understand that. We weren't going out against all jails. We're not that foolish to think that we can live in a society without some places of detention. We know we need those places because we know we can't keep the same people on the streets if it is up to us to do so. So we weren't fighting the detention. We were fighting the location of it, where it was being built. And that's what we're still fighting, where it's being built. Because all of us know that there are certain neighborhoods and certain places they would not put that detention. I mean, let's not fool ourselves to say that we picked this spot because of, you picked that spot because of where it is and the neighborhood. And that's a slap in the face to our community to say that that's where a jail ought to be built and not in another lily white type neighborhood or community. So that's the frank thing. So it is not, it's where we build or where they were building it that's important. And so Jesus here brings forth, and we're not going to be long, a most serious warning here this morning. Yeah. Hopefully we can see and hear the warning. It's a serious one. For as we come through life, and watch how we shift now, and not so much talking about houses in mortar and clay and all that kind of stuff like that. As we come through life, working and toiling and constructing and erecting, we need to watch where we build. We need to watch the foundations upon which we build. Two men with blueprints in their hands set out to construct their future dwelling places. Jesus is not talking about some shacks. He's not talking about a summer house or cottage. He's not talking about a temporary place. Two men with blueprints in their hands set out to build their future dwelling place, where they're going to reside, where they're going to be, where they're going to anchor, where they're going to drop their roots, where they are going to be. Two men start out with the same kind of blueprint, building the same kind of house with the same kind of material. Two men in a life and death situation. Two men working on their building, as the song said, looking for the true or the sure foundation.
Lord help, Lord help.
Two men in life. Two men snatched from the vocal cords of Jesus, brought out in a parable. Two men set out in life to build where they're going to be. Everybody, all of you sitting here right now, ought to have an idea of where you're going.
Somewhere.
You may not be able to say much about where you've been. And maybe you're not even satisfied with where you are. But you ought to have a blueprint in your hand when it comes to where you're going. You might not be responsible for where you've been, maybe because of hard times in the family. You have to go through what you have to go through, but that's the past. And maybe you're in a situation now that you can't do any better because that's the present, but you ought to have a future blueprint in your hand.
Lord help, Lord help.
You ought to say, when I leave here, I know where I'm bound. I know where I'm going. I might not have done everything I was supposed to do right in the past. And maybe I'm still working on some things in the present. But I'm looking forward to the future. Because I know there has to be a better day. You ought to have a blueprint in your hand. I don't care if you don't have a dime or a job, you ought to have a blueprint. You may be unemployed right now, but that doesn't mean you don't have a blueprint in your hand. Blueprint says, I'm going to do better than what I'm doing. That I'm going to get out of where I am. I talked to a young lady, I said this in the revival day, just talked to her 3 weeks ago. A young lady, not in this church, young lady I've known though for a long time, who called me from Amityville, telling me about her troubles, and she had one child. And then another child, and another child, and another child. And all of them got different fathers. I said, well, I'm not downing you. I thank you that you came to me. I know we're victims of circumstances, and I know that we get weak along the way. And I'm not here to pass judgment on anybody else. Had it not been for the grace of God, I could be in a situation similar to yours. I realize that. But I said, when are you going to get the blueprint in your hand? I don't care if you're on welfare, you still ought to have a blueprint. Saying one day I'm going to get off. I don't care how down you ought to have a blueprint in your hand. Say, Lord, this is my design for the future. That I know that I can do better than what I'm doing. And all I need you to do, Lord, is take me by the hand and guide me. Look forward. Look forward. I don't care what it is. Look forward to something better. Every day when I get through a day and come to the end, I say, Lord, I thank you. You brought me through the day. And I don't know what tomorrow might bring. But Lord, I know this was a good day, but let me have a better day on tomorrow. I don't care what it is. I don't care how much I smile today. Let me smile more tomorrow. I don't care what went on. Let things, and if they're not better, God, let me hold the blueprint in my hand, knowing that things will soon be better. Two men set out with blueprints in their hand, life and death, working on their building, getting ready to work for the future. Two men whom Jesus lifts up as examples of the universal human being. This is a universal human being. Two men who will be judged by the character of the homes they build. Their character will be judged by the homes they build. Now you see, he's not just talking about brick and that kind of house. Jesus is talking about something far more important than just simply building a house. A lot of folk will live and die and never build a house or never live in one like that. That's not what Jesus is talking about. He isn't talking about building a house or leasing a place or anything like that. He's talking about something much different and much more important. But alas, here's where these two men with the blueprint differ. Here's where you see a distinction in them. One of them builds on a rock foundation. One of them situates his house on a rock foundation. The other chooses to build on sand. And that's all I've come to say this morning, Mount Ollie, to all of us. That's all I've come to say to people who God has blessed to have a life. If God has blessed us with a life, we ought to think about what we're doing with it. Oh, it's tragic when we read the statistics that most males, black males today, won't live to be 25. That's tragic, isn't it? That's tragic. That's tragic. Somebody said life begins at 40. If life begins at the age of 40, many of our black males are not making it. Many of them, and not just black males, age has come through now, so black and white, rich or poor, doesn't make any difference. Cut down long before the time. Cut down long before the time. Somewhere along the way, we've got to choose a rock foundation, or either be satisfied with building on sand. And if we become satisfied, in other words, we just got to watch what we build. Let me move on. Having been raised as a carpenter's son, Jesus himself, he uses his background. One of the first times that Jesus uses his earthly father's background. Raised as a carpenter's son, he knows something about building, and Jesus uses his background in building to direct us to the bigger picture of the human house that we must build. The human house he's concerned with. When the song said there's a leak in this old building that my soul has got to move, they're not talking about the house. We have leaks all over our house, isn't that right? Some of us, I don't know about y'all, but some of us have lived in places where we had to put a pot down and catch the water coming. I know people born in the lap of luxury like most of y'all don't know what that's about. But there's some folk that dread when it rains because they got to put a pot to catch the water because the roof is leaking. Others have to sometimes stuff clothes in the cracks in the doors and windows so the air won't come through. You don't know anything about living like that, do you? There are thousands of people living like that right now. Living like that right now and trying to repair, trying to struggle through. So when the songwriter came out and said, well, there's a leak in this old building, therefore my soul has got to move. He wasn't talking about that house. Those houses that have leaks. He's talking about the human house. Now we're talking about the human house now. Talking about the house that God gave us, that we might develop and build ourselves. That's the one that we're concerned about. And so Jesus lifts up this bigger picture, just like the saying that, and we heard this in the film last night, didn't you? If you make your bed hard, you still got to lay it. And we heard that last night. And we've been hearing that a long time, haven't we? Make your bed hard, you have to lie in it. Well, if we build our human houses on the wrong foundation, we got to suffer the consequences. If we build our human house, if we put our trust, if we put our hope on a sand foundation, we've got to suffer the consequences. Jesus makes that clear. Well, I want you to notice again that we have the wise and the foolish. One of Jesus' most favorite ways of expressing things. The wise man and the foolish. We just got through telling you that wise and foolish are not separated by diplomas and degrees. They're separated mostly by the wise action of one and the foolish action of another. And therefore it stands to reason, Brother Paul, as I said before, that PhDs can be foolish. You think you got something because you got somebody with a PhD. PhDs can be foolish. When David Crest led that crowd to kill themselves, we had PhDs in the ashes somewhere. We have lawyers in the ashes somewhere. Having a degree does not necessarily mean that you're wise. For educated folk make foolish promises and choices. And so Jesus knows what he's talking about. The wise and the foolish, the one. And you're not wise simply because your mama or your daddy was wise. You're not wise simply because you dress like a wise man. You're not wise because you belong to a certain club or a certain church or in politics. You're wise depending on the choices you make. How you choose, what you do. That's where wisdom comes out. So now, wisdom is related to godliness and righteousness in a way. Lord, help me to make the right choices. Lord, that's our prayer. Lord, guide me in my thinking. Come here for a moment before I go on, Solomon. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you, Solomon, because you are the son of David and Bathsheba. I want to talk to you because David groaned and moaned and suffered a lot so that you might come into the world. I want to talk to you because there was sin and selfishness and everything crowding your birth. So I want to talk to you, Solomon. I want to talk to you because the future is ahead of you. I want to talk to you because you're about to become a king over a nation. I want to talk to you because David has led the people, Solomon, but now it's your time. And I want to know, Solomon, what do you want in order to lead these people? That's God's question to Solomon. What do you want? What do you want? What do you need? Do you need an army of 20,000? Do you need that? Do you need angels to come down and do your will? Do you need a big palace to sit in? Do you need royalty around your prince? What do you need in order to do it? Solomon said, give the money and the power to somebody else, but Lord, give me wisdom. Give me wisdom, give me wisdom, give me wisdom so I can choose what is right. And Ollie, that's how you make it in life. Lord, give me wisdom. I don't know how to pick my friends, so give me wisdom. I don't know how to choose who's right and wrong. Give me wisdom. I might choose, and a whole lot of us are choosing folk that are not good for us. We're making bad mistakes. The people who love us, we think they're our enemy. And the people who don't love us, we got them on our love list. That's the reason why so many folk are let down. They're let down simply because we made the wrong mistake. We made a mistake. We talked to the wrong person. We unbosomed ourselves and gave our secrets to the wrong one. We said, so there are people along the road of heartbreak. You don't know the road of heartbreak, do you? Some of you have never had your heart broken. You've never had it. Well, I want to tell you, Ollie, there's a heartbreak road. And the heartbreak road has got a whole lot of broken hearts on it. People who have promised the moon and didn't even get the gutter. People who have promised stars and didn't even get a pebble. People who have promised, some people who put their faith and trust in somebody, they sit on the road of heartbreak now, saying, oh, if I could only make those choices again. Oh, I wish I could tell our young people. I know we kid with them, I laugh with them, and I tell them all sorts of things about who to pick out and so on like that. But I wish I could really impress it upon our young people. Stop looking at how nice looking somebody is. Stop looking at how well they seem to be dressed. Stop looking at how they talk and how they sound and what kind of reputation they seem to have among their friends. You're going to be on Heartbreak Road after a while. And when you get on Heartbreak Road, nobody cares about you. I mean, when you really get out there by yourself, nobody cares. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. You'll spend all your life loving the wrong person. You'll spend all your life trusting the wrong person. You spend all your life believing in the wrong folk. And then you'll come to a rude awakening that it's not what you look like on the outside, but it's what you got on the inside. You'll find out that it's not how well somebody dressed or what school they've been to, but what they got on the inside. And I heard the songwriter say, something within. That's the thing that holds the rain. Something within that banishes all of my pain. Something within. And then they said, well, tell us more. He said, I cannot explain it. But although I know there's something on the inside, you better get somebody that's got something within. Somebody that means something on the inside. And I hope our young people, and I hope all of us will begin to realize the choices that we're making. A wise man and a rich man. Well, I got to close it. One built on a solid rock. Well, tell me, brother preacher, what is the solid rock? Is the solid rock a rock where a millionaire dwells? Not necessarily. Is the solid rock on Park Avenue? Is the solid rock on Main Street? Does the solid rock mean that I'm going to get a better job? Does the solid rock mean that I'm going to be popular in this society? That's not what, well, let's go back. Well, what is the solid rock. Let's go back. Jesus said, everyone who hear my sayings and do my will. In other words, not only must you be hearers of the word, but you've got to be doers of the word. That's what the rock is built on. You hear the word of God, and then you do God's will. Well, if that's the solid rock, then what's the sand? The sand are those who hear it, but never do the will. Got to spend a little time on that, Brother God, because somebody looked puzzled this morning. Got to spend a little time on it, Sister Shannon. I'm glad to see you this morning. Got to spend a little time on it this morning, because somebody don't know what I'm talking about. I got to tell them a little bit about what I'm talking about. Everybody can hear the word. When our church doors open, come in, hearers walk in. When Billy Graham gives a crusade in Madison Square Garden, there are a whole lot of hearers there. Our churches are filled with hearers of the word. Because all you got to do is show up and you can hear the word. All you got to do is open your ears and you can hear the word. But hearing is not enough. Jesus said, everyone who hear my sayings and do my will. So you can't come to church and just hear me talk about love. You got to go out and love somebody. I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And you know that song, what's that song? Something like the song Brother Eric leads about usually. I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I saw this lady leading, Sister Evelyn. She was leading this song talking about use me, Lord. And then she even put some more in, Brother Crayton. If you need somebody, you can use me. If you want somebody, you can use me. And she walked all over the church and she shouted over the church. And I said, great God, that woman's singing. I told the preacher, I said, listen to her. She said, use me. The church went up in flames. And then a sad thing happened. Somebody, and you know you hate for folk to tell you things because it kind of mess up your spirit, you know. Because sometimes they say lying, though. I don't know whether they're lying, but I heard somebody said to me, she sings mighty nice. But she's not even speaking to more folk on the choir. The same person that said, use me, Lord, walking by folk and not speaking to them. You come to my Lord and hear me say, love you one another, and you can agree with me or love one another, but you can't just hear it and leave it alone. You got to go out and do it. You got to love everybody. If you're going to see Jesus, you got to love your enemy. If you're going to see Jesus, you can't just hear the word and leave it alone. You got to hear it and do it. Those who hear my saying and do them are like a man who builds his house on a rock. Now let me move, and I'm almost sitting down, Brother Crayton, but let me move to the next one. But now, here's the other man. He heard the word, but he's not doing what God told him to do. So the Lord said he's like building on a sand. Now, it's all right to be a hero as long as you don't have to do anything. As long as at the time comes when you don't have to carry out what you heard. So you can be a hero for a long time. You can come to church on Sunday morning and hear the word. You can go home, cook your dinner, take care of your family, and go on to glory. If that's all that's going to happen in your life. But if a challenge should come, if the devil should get in your way, if somebody should block your path, then you're going to have to be a doer. You're going to have to put up or shut up when you're getting ready to go into an operating room. Now, you heard about Jesus the healer. Now, if you're never sick, you don't have to do anything about that. You can hear good sermons on the healer, and you can listen all night long. But what's going to happen when the pains are in your body? When doctors in the hallway stop hearing and not doing anything. I know